Hi, this is Pop News.
Hello, and we are with Benjamin Fulford today in Tokyo.
It's November 6th, 2020.
And we want to talk about elections, of course.
Okay, well, here's my understanding of the U.S. elections. Now, first of all, there's obvious provable fraud and crime going on the industrial scale. And it's pretty clear that the world wants neither a proven criminal who's accepted bribes from China and the Ukraine and other places, Joe Biden, nor do they want Donald Trump, who has, basically ruined the U.S. position in the world, even though he says he wants to make America great again. And he's been accused publicly of raping children, and he has not sued the accusers for slander, which if someone made an accusation like that against me, I would sue them because I would know it's not true, and they would have to pay me money for making false claims. But he doesn't do that. So what's happening is there's a discussion that's going on between different secret societies about what to do. And one proposal that we're discussing seriously now is to have the military intervene because of the widespread dysfunction and fraud seen in the U.S. election. At the same time, we have a fraudulent prime minister in Canada, Justin Castro, who most likely murdered his brother and who basically tried to suspend democracy because he was facing corruption trials. So we have a crisis of democracy in both Canada and the United States. So what we're suggesting is we have the military of Canada and the United States intervene and set up a Republic of the United States of North America. But the point is that we are facing a planetary emergency. We are wiping out species at a rate not seen since the dinosaurs were wiped out 65 million years ago. And it's entirely caused by incompetent human management of the planet. And people like Trump have offered zero solutions to such problems. So, and we don't want a criminal Biden either, because look, it's verboten, okay? The man is a criminal. He should not be in the president's seat.
You said that Donald Trump has been accused of sleeping with children, child molesting.
Well,
why hasn't he sued?
Yeah, that's
anyone?
the point. You see, there's a subscription newsletter called the Wayne Madsen Report, and then it was taken up in places like Veterans Today, that Trump has paid millions of dollars to cover up sexual assaults against children, both male and female, ranging in ages from like 11 to 13. And if this was not true, he should be suing. Now, the other thing about Trump is that his son-in-law is Jared Kushner, who's a member of the Chabad cult that wants to start a war between Gog and Magog, kill 90% of humanity, and enslave the rest. All right? The man is not the answer to the problems facing the United States. He's had 4 years, and I'm sorry, but it hasn't worked, okay? You can't fix something that's broken. We need to reboot the system.
In your last article on your website, benjaminfulford.net, I could read that Chinese secret societies are waiting for re-election of Trump, and they want to see what happens next in the West after re-election of Trump. So it sounded like they expect re-election of Trump.
Well, here's the situation. The U.S. military made sure that the Supreme Court was controlled by the people behind Trump, so that when the legal cases, about this contested election go to court, they end up finally at the Supreme Court, where they will rule in favor of Trump. And there can be no doubt whatsoever that all these reported votes for Biden are fraud, and it's going to be proven. They put in these secret watermarks on real ballots, so they will be able to detect all the fake ballots. And I guarantee you, a lot of people are going to go to jail for this. And I expect that the presidents of the large media and telecommunications corporations will be arrested over this fraud. However, that does not mean we want Trump for another 4 years. We need something different, fundamentally different. That's why we're pushing for United States of North America, a jubilee, which means a complete write-off of all debt and a redistribution of assets. It's a one-off deal, and a future planning agency to plan what sort of planet we want 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 100 years from now. But it doesn't mean that Trump is a better alternative, because he hasn't been able to, really fix anything. I'm sorry, but the man had his chance and he blew it. At the end of the day, there's nuclear war, 90% of humanity dies, and the northern hemisphere becomes uninhabitable. That's why there's not going to be a war. This is not something we can solve through war. It's a sort of a Mexican standoff, or each pointing guns at each other. So it's, you can't shoot each other. That's not the solution. So we have to talk. It's the only way.
I have one final question about China and Biden. Biden's crimes are portrayed as him working with Chinese government,
he accepted
communist government of China. So he is linked to communist regime, and
look, he accepted a bribe from a foreign country to betray his own country. So the man is a traitor. That's the bottom line. Traitors need to be executed. I'm sorry, but that's how I look at it.
I agree, but what political power was collaborating with Biden?
This would be the families that own the Fortune 500 companies. That would be the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. These people, they're the ones who, supported Trump as a kind of controlled opposition to get everybody's hopes up and divert people's attention from real change and real reform, which involves taking control of the process of creating and distributing money from hidden inbred families.
Is there any realistic plan, like what political powers can support such agency?
Well, we're talking with very high level people, like the people who control the P3 Freemasons. They control the Vatican, which controls the UN and the World Bank and all this kind of stuff. And we're in touch with the British Royals, the British Commonwealth, which is like 2.3 billion people, united in friendship and mutual benefit. And then we got the Asian secret societies. They agree that we need to change how we run the planet and do big stuff. I mean, have the military come in, announce that democracy has been hijacked by crime groups in Canada and the United States.
Okay.
I would like to ask you, you mentioned Justin Trudeau Castro, that he killed his brother.
Okay, here's what we know.
Elaborate on it
Sure.
a bit?
There are pictures of Trudeau's mother, Margaret Sinclair, with Castro holding the young baby Justin, and it looks like he's looking at his own son. And she was in Cuba at the right time to be impregnated there. The other thing is that if you look at pictures of Justin Trudeau, they look literally almost identical to the young Castro. Or there's a letter from Castro's son saying he didn't succeed as much as his brother Justin because he wasn't in Canada. And then we have Justin, he went on a hiking trip with his brother, Michael Trudeau, and only Justin came back. They never found the body. He said he died in an avalanche, but I'm pretty sure that he eliminated his brother to make sure there was no competition for him when he went for the job of prime minister. So the man is the other thing is that as soon as he became prime minister, he overturned decades of Canadian diplomacy by becoming a radical Zionist and also supporting, criminal regimes in the Ukraine. So the man's actions show that he's a Manchurian candidate, that he doesn't work for Canada. He has foreign masters. And when he faced the corruption investigation in Canada, he tried to shut down democracy with this fake pandemic and martial law.
Do you know anything about Europe, like European Union? Why they are adding a second wave, third wave restrictions and fascist regime in Europe?
There's two forces using this pandemic. One force is using it to try to create and stay in power and create a fascist regime. Another group is using the COVID as an excuse for a purge. In other words, they're killing a lot of people and saying they died of COVID-19 as part of a power struggle. So there's a battle going on in Europe.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you because, just like you said, that we have second wave of pandemic in Europe, and perhaps there'll be a third wave, and Nazism. But what I want to ask you, like, compared to Japan,
in Europe, I was told they're going to keep this sort of pandemic BS going on until late next year. That's their plan, okay? But that's not our plan.
what's the purpose of that?
It's kind of like, they say it's like an initiation ceremony to let people know that things are different, and it's to prepare the psychology for big political changes. That's my understanding.
All right.
But there is a group that has an agenda where they want to stay in control by vaccinating us with RFID chips that allow people to read their information at a distance, and to tie that with a digital currency. In other words, there is a group that's trying to use this certificate of vaccine ID, COVID, as a way to, maintain control. And we're not going to let that happen. If they try to vaccinate people with RFID chips, we will kill anybody involved starting with the top leadership. Okay, so if you're the president of a medical pharmaceutical company and you're preparing to inject nano RFID chips into people, you will be hunted down and you will be killed.
Good.
Great.
Okay?
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks for having us on.
Thank you.
Bye for now. All right, thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you again next week.
Back to Doge just for a second. Earlier, the subcommittee headed by Chairman Marcia Taylor Greene, her and her staff discovered $2.7 trillion in improper payments to Medicare, Medicaid, overseas, to people who should not have gotten it. Some in this room might have missed that press conference. Can you elaborate on what the president is thinking at this point?
Well, again, that's another example. There's a very long list of the fraud, waste, and abuse that Doge is identifying on a daily basis. Elon Musk also talked about yesterday about Social Security payments that are going out the door for people who are no longer with us. Unfortunately, I would say that is certainly fraud. There's also a lot of contracts they've identified that, just as a hypothetical example, are $1 million, but only 500,000 went out the door. So where's the rest of that cash? And so that's the thing. Those are the things that Doge is working on every single day. And I would just remind everybody in this room, this is what President Trump campaigned on doing. He's delivering on a promise that 70.
The Arab peoples had, over the diaspora, had gone into the promised land of Israel. It was called Palestine in 135 AD. It was renamed Palestine. Never was really a country. It was always loosely defined borders, depending on whoever controlled the area. But it was called Palestine, and then in 1948 it became Israel. And so he was saying, I'm going to pluck out the evil neighbors from what is now going to be called Israel, put them back into their ancient homelands. And I'm going to pluck the Jews out who were living in some of those Arab countries there, lands, and bring them back into what is now going to be called Israel. So we saw that happen in 1948. Now, what he had to do, the Ottoman Empire had controlled the Middle East from 1517 to 1917. There could be no Arab states or Israel with them having control over that area. So in World War I, they got defeated, the Ottoman Empire, the Turks. And all of a sudden we find in the 20th century, the Arabs starting to get their states back. So, for instance, Egypt was 1922, got its statehood. Saudi Arabia and Iraq were 1932. Iran, formerly Persia, was called Iran in 1935. Lebanon, 1943. Jordan and Syria, 1946. And then along comes Israel, 1948. So we see
Things that Doge is working on every single day. And I would just remind everybody in this room, this is what President Trump campaigned on doing. He's delivering on a promise that 70